Hey guys, welcome to a very exciting episode of Auto Connect, and this has been a very interesting experience for us at Auto Connect because we have come to one of our favorite destinations to just unwind, being a weekend, and the destination is Lake Ellis. Now, this trip was very exciting for each and every member because of the car that we were bringing. Now, if you talk about double cab pickups, why do we love double cab pickups? We love them for being versatile and for being very practical and having off-road capabilities. You can use them for work, you can use them as a daily drive, and you can use them for camping or even adventure. But when it came to choosing the double cab that we would bring for this trip, well, we thought the mainstream double cabs, we have reviewed them, we have driven them, but there was one that we have not yet driven, or we had not yet driven, and it is priced, it's actually one of the most affordable double cabs in the Kenyan market, and we are talking about zero mileage double cabs. It is priced very reasonably. Now, it is a Chinese pickup, and I know that brews a lot of debate when it comes to car talk in Kenya. And looking at its price and the value it's perceived to offer from the brochure, we thought that this was the best candidate to bring because it was a new car to even the members of the team, and we wanted to see if it would conquer Lake Ellis. And yes, it did, but there are a few observations that we made during these trips, and we are going to tell you about them and even show you practically because coming to Lake Ellis requires a very good driver, number one. It also requires a good off-road vehicle, and you can see from the background, the cars that are coming in here are vehicles like the Suzuki Jimny, which is a legend when it comes to off-roading, and a Land Rover Defender with a 300 TDI. So which vehicle did we bring? Well, we decided to take a gamble and bring in a Chinese pickup that is called the Changan Hunter. Well, you know, when you're looking for a hunter, it has to be, or any hunter has to be rugged. You have to adapt to situations, and even you have to be very versatile. So we drove this car to this place, and this is going to be a very honest review, and you're going to talk about things as they are. One thing about driving to Lake Ellis is that you will need to be a good driver. Well, normal cars can cover the better part of the journey, say up to the Chogoria gate, but the last stretch is actually the most treacherous, and to be specific, the infamous Magnetic Hill. And for a vehicle to tackle this, you need good power, you need sufficient torque, and a good four-wheel drive system. Now, on the Hunter, you have a 1.9 liter engine, turbocharged diesel, and it is mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission. It comes also with selectable four-wheel drive. But I've driven this car over the easiest stretch, and there is something I've noticed with the 6-speed automatic transmission. There is a bit of lag, and that can actually separate the boys from the men in terms of driving skill, because you really need to know when the turbo spools and when the transmission actually builds pressure to give you that torque. Number one, before we get to the pros and cons of this pickup, let's start by taking you through a walk around of this vehicle. Now, this is the new Changan Hunter. It's a very new pickup in the Kenyan marketplace. And one thing about it is the prima facie. It's a very, very good looking vehicle. In fact, as we drove to Meru, this is a car that would actually turn heads, and people would wonder which vehicle is this. But as we always start our reviews, let's see what is under the hood of this vehicle. And this is going to form a very good basis of our adventure. Now, you may have seen the trend whereby manufacturers are downsizing the sizes of engines, and that has gone across the board, not only in Japan and Europe. Now, even in China, we have received the same downsizing. Under the hood of the Changan Hunter is a 1.9 liter turbo diesel engine. Yeah, so basically, it's let me pick them one by one. It's turbocharged. It delivers fuel to the cylinders through a common rail, and it has 4 cylinders. But the displacement is actually very, compared to what we have in the market, it's lower than the Ford Ranger, but it's the same displacement as the new Isuzu D-Max, and this engine can churn out around 150 horsepower and 350 Newton meters of torque. Well, these power figures may sound slightly lower. Power and torque may sound slightly lower compared to what we have in the market, but we are going to get to that. Now, how is power transmitted to the wheels? And this is where the spirit of adventure of the Hunter comes in. Well, the Hunter is available both in a manual transmission and an automatic transmission, but the one we got comes with a 6-speed automatic transmission, and it has selectable 4-wheel drive. Now, if you look at the suspension setup, I must say that when Changan were building the Hunter, the one thing they got very right was the suspension, because even coming to to this place, we have to encounter a lot of rocks, mud, and even uneven roads, and the kind of comfort you get in the Changan is actually a unique selling point of this vehicle. Well, just like any other double cab, it will come with side steps and double wishbone suspension at the front, and then at the back. Now, the most unbelievable thing about this vehicle is why is it so comfortable, yet at the back we have a leaf spring suspension setup? Yeah. So Changan have been able to get the comfort out of this suspension setup, and it is actually it's beautiful to drive both on the road and off-road. Now, when you come to the versatility of the vehicle, the loading bed is bigger compared to most of the double cabs that we have in the market. Now, the coolest part of this Changan is, and what I love about it is the Changan branding. It looks quite good, not even quite good. To me, it actually looks really nice. And then you have the Hunter badge on the bottom right hand side of the vehicle, plus a bumper that comes with parking sensors. Let's take a look at the interior, because this is where the Changan might actually win. And then after we talk about the interior, we are going to tell you about what we liked about this car and what we did not like about this double cab. So follow me inside the Changan Hunter. Inside the Changan, you get a very simple yet conspicuous interior, because it's quite refined, and then it has some familiar design cues on it. Well, number one is the shifter lever. The shifter lever looks like see the thrust levers of an aircraft. Yeah, that is the vibe you get on the shifter lever of the Hunter. Now, the other thing is that you see these switches. They have been inspired by the aeroplane switches that pilots just flip around. So you see the way Kenyans call Kaderes pilot. So when you're in the Changan, you're literally a pilot, because you have a thrust lever and you have switches that you can, flip around. But the conspicuous thing about these switches is that they resemble those of a vehicle that we might all know. Yeah, they are very similar to those in Peugeot. Yeah. So, and I believe PSA Group and Changan had some collaborations as they were building this vehicle. And the other thing is that there are several of these cars that are on the same platform. Well, number one is the Changan Hunter. Number two is the as a Chinese pickup called the Kaizen F70, and number three is the Peugeot Landtrek. All of them are built on the same platform as this vehicle. That is why you'll see some Peugeot DNA around and some now very similar parts between the Landtrek and the Changan and also the Kaizen F70. Even the branding at the back. So you'll find that they are quite similar, and they share an engine, they share a gearbox, they share most of the things because and most people ask, why do manufacturers tend to do this? They tend to do this because the cost of R&D is quite expensive, and to cut costs and to be profitable, they make collaborations so as to even working together to at least cut some costs that are associated with R&D. And talking about sharing parts with other vehicles, it also shares it also has some Bosch parts like the injector drive. Talking about sharing parts, now the Hunter also has some very familiar parts on it, like the injector drive on it is actually a Bosch injector drive plus a couple of other things even in the suspension. And now this one is the four-wheel drive Hunter, so that's why you have this dial over here to shift from 2 high to 4 high and 4 low. However, if you want a Changan for moving around town, you can get the Changan Hunter in two-wheel drive configuration as well. Now, let's start talking about the general comfort. It's very comfortable, leather interior, and you get a lot of legroom for the guys who sit at the back. And the most interesting thing, and something that most double cabs do not have, is that you get an armrest on the second or the back seat of this double cab. Now, what are the unique selling points of the Changan Hunter that is unlike most double cabins in the market? Number one is that it has discs all round. That is something you do not conventionally get on double cab pickups. Now, what does it lose? Now, you see, when you're buying a double cab, you need it to be a robust off-roader because double cab, most of the times we perceive double cabs to be vehicles for off-roading, and that is the controversial, or not controversial, that is the conventional thought I actually hold. I believe that a double cab should be four-wheel drive. But anyway, for those who do not want four-wheel drive double cabs, you can get it in two-wheel like the Hunter. And also the Ford Ranger also has a two-wheel drive variant of the double cab, the D-Max and the Hilux. All of them have a two-wheel drive variant. But this being a four-wheel drive variant, there's one critical thing it lacks, a diff-lock. Yeah, so it's just a general two-speed transfer case that has 4 high and 4 low, but you do not get a diff lock on this vehicle. So that is one point to note before we get to the critical analytical part of this vehicle. Well, another thing about the Changan is the sound. This is something that might vary between enthusiasts to non-enthusiasts. Well, for the diesel enthusiasts or the diesel heads, they prefer hearing that diesel grunt coming into the cabin, and with the Changan, you get that. However, for the people who prefer a muffled kind of packaging, well, I must admit that the noise that comes from the engine of the Changan Hunter is a bit loud. Yeah, so that's one thing I have to let you guys know. Let us talk about the safety aspect of the Changan Hunter. Well, Changan, even the name Changan is related to safety. And the most impressive thing about the Changan, even compared to other mainstream brands that we are used to here in Kenya, is that it has an impressive amount of safety features. Number one, you get 6 airbags, and that is 1, 2, driver and passenger, 3, 4 on the B pillar, and 5, 6 on the C pillar. This is not something that is usual on kawaida pickups. In fact, most double cab pickups have a very low safety rating. Yes, that is the truth. And on one of the videos that we are going to do, we are going to talk about some vehicles that are not very safe. So stay tuned to AutoConnect. You'll be able to get that. Now you also get parking sensors, and the infotainment system on this vehicle is quite decent. Well, it's not really upmarket, but it is decent. You can get that clarity and a little bit of treble and bass. But the good thing about these vehicles is that you can always customize them in the way you want. If you want to add a subwoofer, there is plenty of that of space under the seat. Now the other thing is that it comes with push to start. So hii si ile ya kifunguo ya kupoint kuku. So it's a very convenient double cab that is not very complicated. Before we step out of the Changan, there is a very clever lighting system that I would like to show you. Well, this button over here is the switch to the lights that illuminate the bed in case you're loading at night or offloading at night. And you know, it's very clever because it's not aftermarket. This is something that comes with the car. So the manufacturer had it in mind that the person buying this car would probably need to load the car or offload it at night. Si maneno ya kuuma tochi na mdomo ndio utoe mzigo kwa the loading bed. However, there's a disclaimer I would like to give. Those lights should not be used on the road. Like if you're driving it, please do not use them because they are hazardous to the driver who is driving behind. However, there is a way of making vehicles idiot proof. So even if you would choose to switch them on, well, they do not have that glare that might affect the driver at the back in terms of visibility and visuals. However, the risk is that they might be a bit confusing to the driver who is driving at the back, because the reason why we have red lights at the back is so that you can know this is the back of the car. But when you introduce white light, it creates some confusion of hii gari inaenda mbele ama inaenda nyuma. So mind the other users and use these lights only when you are loading or offloading or when you are camping in this amazing place like Lake Ellis. Now I want us to step out of the Changan Hunter, and we are going to have a segment where we're going to talk about what we liked about the car and what we did not like about the Changan Hunter. It is in our best interest to give a factual, non-biased review to our viewers, and for that reason we are going to talk about what we like about the Changan Hunter and what we do not like about the Changan Hunter. But before I get to that, let me also mention that the Hunter comes with a bed liner and a power output in the load bed. So you don't have to worry about the bed rusting out, and when you're camping you actually have easy access to power. Now let's go to the segment that we are calling Kinagaubaga. So what do we like about the Hunter? Number one reason is it's very affordable compared to other double cabs in the market when it comes to pricing of this vehicle. Well, what is the price tag? If you buy this Changan, the high-spec Changan, it will set you back around 6.2 million Kenya shillings. Now, if you buy the lower spec, it might set you back around 5.2 million shillings thereabout. Again, it's available in manual or auto, and also four-wheel and two-wheel drive. Now, the other thing we like about the Changan is that it has a fuel tank of around 80 liters, and this means that you can drive it for even 800 kilometers without having to refuel. Now, the other thing that we like about it is the infotainment system. It's very simple, and you can easily connect your phone through Bluetooth to the infotainment system and get to access your call logs, pick phone calls, and even play your favorite music, probably on Spotify or any other music service providers that we have lately. Now, the other thing we love about the Changan Hunter is the comfort. It's very comfortable both on road and off-road. Now, what else do we like? We like the fact that this vehicle has a very smooth drive. Yeah, so it's a vehicle that you will enjoy driving. And now, what don't I like about the Changan Hunter? I'm saying I because some of this might be quite personal and might not really matter to other people. Well, number one is that the gearbox. Well, it has a tendency of thinking. And this is what I mean by thinking. When you are driving up Magnetic Hill, it's a very challenging terrain for this vehicle. And I can easily say that this is not a vehicle for people who are taking it to extreme off-road conditions. And this is why. When you stop and you want to do a hill start, well, this vehicle has a hill assist system that helps you take off without rolling back. Well, it engages the brakes, and when you throttle the car, sometimes it holds up too long and it feels like the vehicle is thinking. Well, when it finally disengages, there is some loss of power, there is some lag, so the vehicle has to, rumble for a while and then now get the boost to take off. And sometimes you might think that the vehicle has stalled, but it's going to take a few minutes for it to get out of the bog or get out of a very steep kamlima, especially in very challenging terrain. So this might be related to the gearbox, the way the gearbox is tuned, but I reckon that if you were to get the manual four-wheel drive, maybe it would do better in such conditions. So if you're an extreme adventurer, I would advise you to get the Changan Hunter that comes with a manual transmission, because you can control the sweet spots where you get the max torque through the clutch. You can play around with the clutch and you're able to get max torque, but with the automatic you cannot do that. And now that brings us to the second aspect that we do not like, or that I do not like, and that is the vehicle feels a little bit underpowered. And these, for people who love driving cars, who love an engaging drive, who love a vehicle that gives you instant kickdown. Well, 150 horsepower is it's not bad. In fact, it's significant horsepower, but again, it's not up there. So if you're looking for a thrill-ful drive when it comes to kickdown, it might not offer that. But remember, it offers when it picks up speed. Now it becomes fun to drive. But in matters of hill start and also high torque demands, you might be required to throttle it or to wait for it to think. And you see, when you're driving in mud, that is not a good thing, because you can easily get bogged. So the solution to that, get a manual. Yeah. So what else don't I like about the Hunter? Well, there's too much engine noise in the cabin. So when you're driving it, unasikia hiyo kelele sana. It has not been muffled up in a way that we would maybe expect. However, that goes case by case. For somebody who has driven say a variety of pickups, you'll notice that the noise degree in the Changan is slightly higher. Not so much. In fact, people who have not driven so many modern diesel vehicles may not realize. So it might be centric to me, but I feel there is that extra noise that comes into the cabin. Now, what is the other thing that I have to say about the Changan? It lacks a diff lock. Now, for an extreme off-roader, a diff lock is a very important feature when it comes to driving to places like this. If you don't have the skill, if you're not a skillful driver and you don't have a diff lock and you have a transmission that behaves the way this car does, well, you might end up being easily bogged. But if you're not taking it to extreme off-road like I am, well, it's a perfect vehicle for you. But if you're an extreme adventurer and you want to take this vehicle to places that will push it to its limits, then my solution would be get the Changan Hunter that is available in a manual transmission. Well, what is my verdict about the Hunter? Number one, the Hunter, for a normal driver who is not taking it to places like I would do, it's a perfect pickup. In fact, it's economical on fuel. It has good power for non-enthusiasts. It's very practical and it is very well priced, because if you compare it with the other zero mileage vehicles, its price is actually very good. And As if that is not enough, it comes with a 5-year warranty or 100,000 kilometers, or whichever comes first. So you're covered. You don't have to worry about aftermarket support or warranty. So that's a warranty that actually covers you quite nicely. So if you're looking for a double cab pickup as a beginner, you want to maybe have moderate camping, you want to use it for work, wasi engineers when you're wanaenda site, it will actually be really nice. Also, for a person who wants to move from point A to point B, sometimes take your family to Ishago and you need good ground clearance, well, you have it in the Changan Hunter series. So in a nutshell, I think it's a very good vehicle, and you should consider it. You know, the market is opening up to new models, and one of the ways to actually get to know what these vehicles have to offer is by driving them. So I would recommend that if you have some time, log on to the Inkscape or Changan Kenya website and book a test drive, or even go to their showroom at Lusaka Road and drive this car, because that's the only way you're going to understand or going to feel what this car has to offer. I hope this has been an exciting review and an up close and candid one as well. And we're going to bring you more of this exciting stuff. Stay tuned for our Wednesday live show as usual, where we are going to get live and interactive with you. The segment is called Connect Live. Sawa sawa. And remember, you can follow me at a personal level on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. My handle is Eric Wakabi, Eric with a CK. Now it's time for us and the team to enjoy what Lake Ellis has to offer.